Hi, welcome back to the Why Eating Healthy is Not Enough Summit. I'm Linda Mechner, your host, and today I'm here with Britt Steele, who is a thought leader in women's health. Britt, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, welcome all of you today for being here and investing in this really important practice of knowing your bodies and addressing your bodies from the inside out. And what I'd love to say about myself is that I come from a long educational background in terms of an undergraduate degree in physiology. I have a master's degree in public health. I've worked in university settings in the wellness field. I have worked in clinical settings, in hospitals putting together whole food, weight management, and disease reversal programs. I've done oncology research. I've done yoga teacher trainings. Yoga is largely my life. And I live in Mexico. So I also say that as a disclaimer because who knows if we'll have an entire pack of dogs barking at a donkey going by. So I just say all of that, and I'm just here to support you any way I can. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, fantastic. You know, one of the things I find so fascinating about you is that you come from such a technical sort of Western medicine background, and yet you've sort of gone, done yoga training, and then you've really come into this more mind-body approach, which as a trend, I see more and more people who are really committed to helping people create health in their bodies and lives do go from more of a clinical approach to more of this mind-body medicine. And I would love for you to say more about that in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really makes me, squirm with excitement because the reality is that we know so little, right? We focus in our Western allopathic medical and nutritional sciences perspective on what we know, but in terms of our brain function and how much of our brain we're actually utilizing and the deep wisdoms of our bodies and the way that all of our physical, mental, emotional bodies work together, and stress and epigenetics, which I'd love to tap on a bit later, all of this, we know so little. So to come from an allopathic perspective, I just got to this place where I was like, wait a minute, the things that we know, but sometimes they change, like the oat bran fad of the 80s or fat-free everything, right, in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I find such great value in going, okay, we think we know what we know, but there's great value in being open to the mystery and to the mother traditions and the ancient teachings. And so that really got me going in a different direction and recognizing that some of the best allopathic disease management models actually were integrating yoga, meditation practices, eating seasonally. When we look at the blue zones across the world where we see centurions living, well into their 90s and 100 years old, and they're healthy, it's more than what we can explain scientifically or technically. So that's how I ended up walking from there to here and embracing both sides of it, really.
Yeah, that's so fabulous. And, people who recognize that and really are sort of looking at the worldwide trends and who really, have the vision, have the openness to look and to bring that back into their practice. I think that's so important. So valuable. And, in terms of helping people really live long and healthy, because it's not about how long we live, it's about how long we have a high quality of life, right? And I mean, ideally, we all die healthy, right? Which when I say that, people laugh, but that's the idea is to, if you live to 100, you want to be able to cook and walk and take care of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So in terms of helping people do that, what are some of the most important keys that you see that help people maintain that level of health and vitality that old?
Well, the first thing that I would say about that is we have got to recognize that our bodies are the vehicles that we've been given in this life. They're not simply, my body is not who I am. And every aspect of my body I feel a little bit tired. I'm in the middle of a construction project. I had an interesting plumbing fiasco yesterday. I was at immigration. We all have our different stressors that come. And I look at my skin, and my skin is my indicator. I look at if my right eye and my left eye are in balance. I'm constantly looking at my nails, how they're growing, whether my body feels whether my body feels healthy and feels plump and fresh. I'm looking at all of those things all of the time. And so there's all these different pieces. We can go back to the 1980s again and look at what we call the wellness wheel, where we have physical wellness, mental wellness, social wellness, occupational wellness, spiritual wellness. We have all these different aspects of ourselves, and we must recognize that. And with that, I really champion what you're doing in terms of shining the light on how food is not enough, because we've all had those people in our lives, whomever they may be. I mean, Shiva Ray is a great one in my industry, in the yoga industry. Beautiful human being, really strong, organic eater, practiced yoga her whole life, diagnosed with breast cancer. So it's more than just one piece, right? We look at the work of Dr. Mark Hyman, who's one of my models in functional medicine. And, I'll drop names throughout this, the people that are my anchors, and he's definitely one of them. And the whole work of epigenetics, where we can turn genes on and turn genes off, that's important. And what we know from an allopathic, peer-reviewed scientific perspective is what turns genes on and turns genes off are diets, number one, physical activity levels, and like a bell-shaped curve, not too much, not too little. Stress levels, not too much, not too little. Sleep patterns, not too much, not too little. All of those things turn our genes on and turn our genes off. And so when we turn our attention to things outside of what we put on our plate and how we care about our bodies, how we're relating to people in our lives, how effectively we're communicating what we feel, how we're moving energies that arise within us, emotional energies, deep desires for having an impact in our lives, et cetera, et cetera. When we turn our attention to these things, we create an internal flow of energy, and that affects everything. It affects the way in which we're able to digest food. It affects the way we're able to digest tragedy or transition or empty nesting or divorce or loss or diagnosis. So all of these pieces are part of our resiliency, our overall resiliency.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's such an important piece too. I think sometimes people think of the stresses or the things that compromise our health, our diet, exercise, stress, but they, sort of this external stress. But I think sometimes what people don't realize is the biggest stressors of all come from the inside, their judgments of themselves or what they should be doing or how they should be in the world. And, the sadness, like these sort of emotional habits that people have. My mother-in-law told me the other day, she was worried about my son, who is 18 and on the East Coast right now doing an internship. And the reason she's worried is because she hadn't heard from him in a couple weeks. And I said, so are you worried or do you just miss him? And she thought about it and she said, I just miss him. And, but her habit is to worry, and worry is so destructive.
Right. Absolutely.
So there is this whole internal piece that's so insidious, I think.
Absolutely. And, as I said, so I just want to take a moment and say, in our time together, I don't want it to be about me. What I want to do is share with you, like, the people who held the light for me, as well as what I do in my work with coaching and with teaching yoga and leading women's retreats, etc. Chris Northrup, Dr. Christiane Northrup, is another huge anchor for me. And what you're speaking of is key, because as she moves into her sage years, she is that woman. If you do not know her work, find her, follow her, read her latest book, Why Goddesses Never Age. And you know, it's a big, it's a big topic, but she's the first to really pull forth the research and look at the solid scientific research around how when we as women stuff emotions, when we hold things down, that does no good on the inside. And so we have to find that reintegration. How do I have my thoughts, my actions, my words, and the way that I'm presenting myself in the world? How do I have all of these things line up in a way that I'm not stepping on my own garden hose? You know, I'm letting fluidity move in and through my life in all ways, and I'm honoring however I show up, making it sacred, letting it be sacred, letting it be whole. And from that place, I'm able to go, oh, okay, so I'm feeling angry. I'm going to move that angry. I'm going to consciously choose how to move it healthfully.
Right.
And then I can actually digest my pizza better. That's what right? I mean, I'm able to sleep better at night. I'm able to enter REM state sleeping. There's so many things that it's just deeply interconnected, right?
Yeah. So true. You know, one of the things that you said before that I just really appreciate that you touched on is being plump, right? Like this plumpness of life. And, you know, a lot of the people that I wind up working with are weight conscious. And I see a lot, you know, I see a lot of people in my world who have really, really dialed in their diet so meticulously, and they follow it, and they have made the weight loss, kept it off. But sometimes it is through, this sort of tightness, and I see like it's a dryness. And
exactly,
you know, not my clients. I will qualify that, but other people who, you know, they approach their health and their diet with restriction, and it just, I get the feeling that they're just brittle. And so maybe you could say a little bit about like the juiciness and the brittleness, I mean, and how those two interact.
Oh, absolutely. So this is a key anchor in the work that I do in Ayurvedic medicine, which is it's like the sister science to yoga, where it looks at how everything in life has different qualities related to the 5 elements, to earth, water, fire, air, and ether, or space. And so we are made up of those same qualities within ourselves. And we live in cultures and climates. Like a desert area is very dry, right? We know a desert is dry. We know a place like Hawaii or Bali is very juicy. You go there and you're just like wet and juicy, and the way you move changes, and what you eat, mango juice dripping down your arm. It just happens naturally because the entire, like the earth holds that. And I'm so with you. I see when I travel back to the United States in comparison to what I see in terms of the feminine energies here, and also looking at India as well in Ayurvedic medicine, there's a word that we use, it's called ojas. And that word ojas is about juiciness. It's like the reserve that you have to reach back into the honey pot when you're tired and exhausted and go, I just need this. I need this nectar to get me through. I need this juiciness to get me through physically, mentally, emotionally. And we do it from a food perspective with coconut oil and avocado, and roasting our own nuts and seeds, and making our own nut butters, and not being afraid of ghee, which is clarified butter that's made, during the full moon, the creamy, juicy, nurturing time of the month. And, there's all these things, and allowing yourself to move in a way that isn't always about calories. It isn't always about, in fact, it's seldom about that. It's about, how do I feel best? And then noticing when I feel dry in my body, when my joints are cracking, when I feel really wrinkly, when I feel my eyes dry, my nose dry. And that happens, it's going to happen more naturally in our transitional years of moving into perimenopause and menopause. It happens naturally. And it's when we really need to tend to the juiciness of our nature as well. Because when we're dry, if you think of it from the perspective of static electricity, things short wire. They shock, we forget things more quickly. We can't sleep as deeply and as richly. We can't access the wisdom that's beneath the surface.
Mhm.
of who we are and what we are. And I don't mean for that to be esoteric, but I'll also say that what we know is dryness is deeply associated with the stress response, the
Mhm.
fight or flight response. And what we want to do is we want to move from that limbic stem of the brain where we're in stress response and reactivity and, how do I save enough money or get enough done or prepare for the future and all of those things. Although those are important, it's equally important to have time and energy where we are in the relaxation response, where the neocortex of the brain is being lit up, because that's where we can digest our food. That's where we can absorb our healthy fats. That's where we can settle into deep, restful sleep at night. That's where we can have meaningful conversation. That's where we can actually relax, recuperate, rejuvenate. And that's where we're just flat out plain old juicy in life. And there's science behind this, and there's mother tongues, traditions that live and breathe this. I look at the hair of the Mexican women, and they never have scrawny little ponytails. They have these huge, rich, thick, juicy hair. Their breasts are full. And then I go back to the United States, and I'm totally stereotyping, but there's more women like me who, I can get a lot done. I can, get the degree and write the paper and run the business and build the house and grow the garden, and I can get all these things done, and my to-do list is long. But I'm going to fall prey, and my sisters are going to fall prey to being dried out and to being exhausted. And
Right.
so the work, for those of us who live in that Western culture, the work is, how do I stay juicy? How do I nourish myself? How do I nurture myself and turn my attention to deep and fortifying self-care practices? And again, that's why it is so much more than just what you put on your plate, as you so know.
Right. Right. And there's that energetic juiciness, right? And then
Right.
the physical juiciness that you can actually see. Like, I look at you and you look juicy to me. Like, you're lean, but you have a plumpness, you have a radiance. And I think sometimes people, in an effort to be lean, they're not in touch with that juiciness. And
Right.
sometimes people who are a little bit heavier look so much more alive and radiant.
Right.
They're not in that, they're not quite so tight about, I don't know, like a number on a scale. And it's not about the number on the scale. It's about, I think, like what you were saying, like this long to-do list. And sometimes self-care actually winds up on the to-do list, where the self-care isn't self-care. It's just a thing to do. It's like, yes, I know
Right.
I should be doing this, and I will do it because it's on my list. But there is no,
Right.
I don't know, settling into the richness of it and the lusciousness of it, and just, allowing themselves to completely enjoy being in that moment. And
Absolutely.
like, I find myself there all the time. I'm like, wait a second, I need to just, put my to-do list aside and just be. But
Absolutely.
it is a balance. I mean, Mexico sounds so amazing.
Mexico is a culture, and the key, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to, why people go to Hawaii, why people want to retire in Hawaii, want to go to Bali and build a house there, why people want to come to Mexico. These things have a lot to do with the fact that the culture itself supports self-care. It supports relaxation, and there's something in our psyche that's saying, enough already. Like the demands, the control that we value in our Western cultures are very important. They're very important, and they create structure for sure. But at the same time, they can be exhausting. And so we need to have those reserves. So thank you for acknowledging the juiciness. I work on it every single day, because my nature is very fiery, as you can feel. I just get really excited, and I love what I do, and I can do a ton of it. And I'm constantly looking, like I said, am I rising rested? What's the experience I have upon immediately rising? Do I feel rested? Do I feel integrated? Are the things that I lay out before me in my day, are those aligned with who I want to be in the world? And am I sharing from a place of abundance because I'm continually filling myself? Or am I sharing from a place of um, cultural habituation where I've been taught I'm supposed to give? Been taught I'm supposed to be generous. I've been taught I'm supposed to give to others first. I don't buy that anymore. I do not buy that anymore. I will turn my attention to fill myself, no matter who or what is saying on the outside. But you said, but I turn the attention within, because I have learned, and if I can impart one thing, it is I have deeply learned, and I see it in my clients, and I see it in my students, and I see it in my own life first, that when I fill myself and my life with the higher things, that which doesn't serve me falls away, and then I'm overflowing, and what I share and what I give comes from that overabundance. And in that way, everybody benefits. Everybody wins.
Right.
There's no one person getting all the good juice and one person going, I'm so exhausted, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fabulous. I wish we had more time to talk, because I would love to dive down some other paths with you.
Right, me
but
too.
we're going to have to save that for next time.
Totally fine. I totally understand.
Yeah. So, and so do you want to, I know you have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. So what I have ultimately is just a really simple 4-part practice to whole and healthy, and acknowledging that it is my belief, it is the yogic tradition, it is many of the ancient traditions believe and perceive that happiness is actually our true nature. It's not about, Pollyanna and, oh, I'm so happy. It's not that. It's this state of deep fulfillment, and the place where our physiology can function optimally, and where we know that when we are in a place of self-care, and there's exceptional research around this as well, that our social and our emotional and our spiritual and our mental competencies also influence the bottom line and our abundance in our lives as well, abundance in all manners. And so this is just a really basic, simple approach that you can use in your own life, you can share with your families. It's a 4-part process that allows for you to access that deep internal wisdom and that deep platform of happiness as your true nature, and the place to which you can reset.
Sounds amazing. I definitely love that.
Yeah, and I want to say too, over and above anything that I'm offering, Dr. Mark Hyman's work is, incredible. Dr. Christian Northrup's work is absolutely incredible. Gary Taubes is another one of my anchors. He's a researcher. Michael Pollan, anything from Michael Pollan. And if you're science nerdy in this area and want to look at disease states and nutrition and epigenetics, like how we turn on the good genes and turn off the bad genes, anything that you see by Marwan Sabha is exceptional. So those are anchors too. And I just want to give anything and everything, anything that I can.
Fabulous. I'm not familiar with the last one you said, but Mark Hyman was one of my favorite lecturers in school, and Christine North was one of my original, inspirations for taking the life path that I did.
Absolutely, yeah. They're anchors, and we need those. Like if we don't have those surrounding us, we must seek out back to the juiciness. We can seek out the juiciness in the mentors and the sisters and the coaches and the teachers that we surround ourselves with. Look to the people who love and who you love and inspire you, and then sit close to them. That's my take home.
Great advice. Anyway, thank you so much. I so enjoyed spending this time with you. And
thank you so much.
I'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Big love.
All right, big love. Bye, everyone.
Bye.